Hi, I'm Alistair, the Grumpy CIO. And what am I grumpy about this week? Maths, and our overarching worship of it, when in fact it's mostly useless. So maths, and Americans, maths has an S on the end of it. Math, what is math? Maths. Is supposed to be the bedrock of our world, and in fact it's almost blasphemy to suggest that we would not be worshipping at the great thing about mathematics. I've got the AI to just generate me a bunch of people worshipping the place with equations on the board. But what does that mean? This was inspired by me by a post with Andrew Reterath, which came out, which was talking about how the fact that ChatGPT dumbs everything down after he goes and done this amazing work to improve our brains, which is, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think that is all true. But I think it spoils the point for me, a different point, which is, why are we worried about that for maths? It isn't what is important. I was reminded of this also by a question on Question Time. For those not in the UK, there's a thing called Question Time where politicians get walked in and just get slammed by members of the public, sometimes with intelligent questions. And this was a beautiful piece, I presume, of just, trolling. But students currently study maths till 16. Rishi Sunak wants to increase this to 18. What difference will 4 years make? And of course the answer is it cannot be 4 years, it can be 2 or 3. 16 to 18 inclusive, 3. Example of basic maths. So as businesses, we're sitting there going, we will be lost out. In that particular example, it's like maths qualifications, we're going far behind Korea. It was Korea in that case. China obviously gets trotted out, behind the Chinese on maths. Businesses will suffer and Britain will, and Western economies will die. It just isn't true. So as a business owner, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. And I was also telling my guilty pleasure, which is Lucifer. Absolute trash TV, and I loved every moment of it. The devil comes down and says, so tell me, what is it you truly desire? All I just want is maths-related logic skills. To start with, I just want people who can add and subtract. Then I want people who can do basic maths. Now, going back to what people think in the audience is like, oh, maths. They're thinking about Rachel Riley or Carol Vorderman, for those old enough, on Countdown. That's what maths is. That's what maths is. We need more people who can do that. That isn't what get taught in maths. I finished my degree at Oxford University doing physics, which means I was very good at maths. I could never do what Rachel Riley does. It's not actually part of mathematics. It's part of very, very, very good mental arithmetic, which is basically a dying art now that we have these things called calculators and spreadsheets. But what I do need to be able to do is do one figure multiplied by 2. So what's 2 times 12? 24. You do need to be able to do that kind of basic maths. You need to be able to divide 2 figures by 1 figure. So 36 by 3, 12. You need to be able to do that very quickly, stuff in your head. As an employee, you can sit there just going, hang on a minute. You've got something that just doesn't quite add up. Causation versus correlation. Thank you, Simon, for actually suggesting this. That's actually something that comes up. I want to actually see there and get taught in maths what is actually done by what, and I'll come back to that in the next graph. Also, just basic logic. If A equals B and C equals D, what is E? No idea. But this comes up. Scale, come back to the next one as well. If you can do all of these things, then you can use ChatGPT and you can use Twitter and you actually have some kind of nuance. Also means as an employer, you are employing people who actually know what the bloody hell they're talking about. You can sit there going, I can reference and I can analyse certain things. For example, this was something that was given to me at university. What can you prove about the relationship between X and Y? And you look at it and say, well, it's a linear graph. There cannot be anything when X goes up to a certain value. Look at this. The graph is showing this to me. This was a particular thing about the way a spectrometer was looking at information. What you've actually proved is what the equipment can pick up. You haven't proved anything about the relationship between X and Y. There actually was no relationship between X and Y at all. What you did prove is what the equipment could pick up. That type of mental thinking about understanding what am I being shown and why, that's the math skills that's actually needed and can be taught. And they would be really useful for really people like this. So if you've got the top level data scientists, I have worked with great engineers and great things who are able to go through code and structure it and work, but just couldn't do this basic logic and maths. And you sit there going, I know nothing compared to you about this wonderful way of putting together C++ code or whatever, but just logically that cannot be that. It cannot exist. And they go, oh, how do you know that? It's like, well, because you've just said that A equals B and C equals D, therefore E, and that cannot possibly be true. So that's what I think about in terms of maths. We need not quite Rachel Riley level skills of mental arithmetic, and we need to understand some basic principles of logic, causation, correlation. These are basic math skills, and some other basic, we could go on for examples of this. That is what I think we need, and that's what I put out on social media, and that's why I've explained myself, and I'm going to stick up with that. Thanks for watching. I'm Alistair, the Grumpy CIO of Shipshape.vc. We are the investment search engine. Come for us for venture capital, angel investment, and similar related things. We have 70,000 portfolio companies analysed as well, so you can find people who've been invested in your space. We help you find the money you need. Thanks for watching.